Hello everyone and welcome to my little corner of the internet. My name's Michael and I'm bitten by a radioactive book. It's Top 5 Wednesday today and this week's topic is books I'd recommend for a Halloween read. So that is kind of difficult because I'm not much of a horror reader. I think you already know that. Horror works for me really well in a motion picture kind of way, and I've watched like tons of horror movies myself, but reading horror somehow it's not my kind of thing. So I'm doing my little own twist on it because we are going to talk more about fantasies with supernatural elements, and I give you my top 5 reads from those types of books and hope that they will be interesting for a Halloween read for you as well. So let's get started. For number 5 I pick Stormfront by Jim Butcher. It's the first in the Dresden Files series, a series that is at I think book 14 or 15 at the moment. It's an urban fantasy set in Chicago, and Harry Dresden is a wizard and he works as a private investigator. So yeah, he works cases for people who have a connection to the supernatural somehow, and he's also a kind of advisor for the police when it comes to the investigation of murders that might be more than meets the eye of the supernatural kind. Next up we have Black Sun Rising by C.S. Friedman. This is actually a dark fantasy. It's set in a secondary world that humans reached via spaceship, but then the whole knowledge of or the technology is kind of lost, and the state of the world the story is set in is more of a Victorian England, I'd say. That's it reminded me a lot of Bram Stoker's Dracula in kind of atmosphere. And the darkness in the book does not only come from that dark creatures are around and that it deals with dark magic, but every one of the 4 main characters has a kind of darkness in its own, or in his or her own, and the story evolves a lot around how the 4 main characters face and overcome or subdue to this kind of darkness. On number 3 we have Vampire of the Mists by Christie Golden. It's set in the Ravenloft world, and the Ravenloft world is a campaign setting for the Dungeons and Dragons role-playing game, and it plays in a fantasy world that is inhabited by a lot of supernatural creatures. And Vampires of the Mist is the first installment, and it deals with Strahd, and Strahd is the kind of Dracula of the Ravenloft world. So he's the most powerful vampire there. And I really loved the Ravenloft books as a younger reader, and I look forward to get back into them maybe next year, because I want to do a reread of a few of the books, and yeah, I think it's an interesting and kind of different read for Halloween. On number 2 we have another series that is actually based on a role-playing game. This time it's based on Vampire the Masquerade, and I'm talking about the Red Death Trilogy by Robert E. Weinberg, and it starts with Blood War. And the Vampire the Masquerade world is very interesting, because it has like different sorts of vampire clans, and all have like certain abilities. There's like the Ventrue, and they are more like the typical aristocratic vampire. Then there are the Nosferatu, who are kind of hideous creatures and need to live. They can't go out into society because they are too deformed and would be spotted. Then there are the Gangrel, that yeah, more live like wild creatures in the in the wild. There are the Malkavians that are like totally insane, and so on and so forth. You have this different kind of clans there, and the whole trilogy is told from a lot of different perspectives as the Red Death goes around and murders happening within the vampire community. For a novel about a role-playing game, I found it very, very gripping. I think I reread the trilogy once already, and I'm planning to do this again because yeah, I was really drawn into it. And on number 1 we have Rivers of London by Ben Aronovich. If you're in the US, this one is called Midnight Riot. And it's about Peter Grant. Peter Grant is a police officer or police constable, and at the point where it's time to pick his career, in one of his cases he's suddenly confronted with a ghost. And as that information kind of comes out, then he's approached by someone who is kind of the expert about supernatural crime in the London police force, and nobody really takes him seriously because they all think, yeah, that's kind of crazy to have something like that. But he then brings Peter into his service, and Peter learns about all the supernatural things that are out there in the world. And so again, this is an urban fantasy. It has, as the Dresden Files, a very good sense of humor, and yeah, I think it's a great and appropriate read for Halloween. So that's it from me today. I hope you enjoyed this little outside the box kind of recommendation top 5 for Halloween reads. If you did, please hit the like button. If you want to see more of me, subscribe to my channel. If you want to know what's coming up on my channel, please look inside the description box. There's a little segment there called On the Horizon. I wish you a good day and hope you get bitten by a really good book too. Bye.